We will now start covering Lesson 7 reports and Lesson 8 useful tips and tricks. For Lesson 7, the reports we will be covering are the Stock Overview Report, MMBE, the Goods Issue Report, the List of Open Purchase Orders report, so this also gives purchase order history, and finally the Material Document List. And these are the four main reports that we're going to cover in this training session. Under the useful tips and tricks, we'll be covering a few different methods on searching for manufacturing part number and searching also for the legacy part number as a few examples. So as I said, the first report we'll be talking about is the Stock Overview Report. The transaction code is MMBE. So I'm going to begin this by typing in MMBE in the command field and hitting enter. This is going to open the starting screen for the MMBE Stock Overview Report. So once we're at this screen, there's a few fields that we need to enter minimum. The first one is we have to enter a material. So this is where our common code would go. The second field we need to enter is the plant. So I'm going to enter my material and I'm going to look at this material, GBS GR-2024. And I want to see how much stock we have in our training environment at our training plant. So I'm going to go to US 31. Now if I hit enter on this report, it's not going to do anything. With reports, they will not run until we hit the execute icon, which is this little check mark and the clock. Once I hit this, this is going to run for us and we will end up having our report. Now a quick note, in your manual it does tell you if you choose to not display the lines that have a zero stock, click on the checkbox that says no zero stock lines. You can see that right here under list display. By unchecking the no zero stock line box, you will be able to see the storage location and bin location for all material, including those with a zero balance on hand. In this situation, we're going to leave that checked and I'm going to hit the execute icon. This is going to run our report. Now we can see what our stock overview is for Parma in our training environment. Currently on stock, in our main crib we have 13 items that are new. In our excess and obsolete crib we have 15 items, 5 of which are broken and 10 of which are new. We can also see besides our unrestricted use, we have our on stock order. And if I scroll all the way to the right, I can also see any of our stock that we have that is in block status. So stock that we cannot use until we move to unrestricted. Now this list is dynamic. Changes are displayed immediately by clicking the refresh icon, which is this icon right here with the two little blue arrows that are chasing each other. When I click that, if there's been a change in the system, it will reflect that change. If I wish to see purchase order or other information, if I put my cursor on the plant level and come to environment, I can see here I have multiple selections and options. So I can look at open purchase orders, stock requirement list, reservations, how the material is moving through the system. So for this I'm going to click the open purchase orders, and this is going to show us that we have an open purchase order. Here's the document number, our document date, material description. This shows our purchase order history, how much our quantity is, what we still have to be delivered. And these columns can be changed as well by changing our layout. So if I hit the back, we're going to go back. Since we're still on our plant level, if I go to environment and hit material movement, this is going to take us to the movement list, or the MB51. So this is going to show us all the goods receipt numbers and whether or not those materials were being brought back into the crib or whether or not they were being provisioned out. Anywhere you see a red, that is a provision out. Anywhere you see a green, that is us adding stock back in. And I can change this layout with this detail list icon, and this will also put it into an Excel format, which is a lot easier to read and understand. We'll be discussing this material document list later as we get to that report, but for now, this is just what we're going to cover. So I'm going to exit and go back. Now the other nice thing about the material stock overview is if I change my material here to another material and I hit the orange and white new selection icon, this is going to rerun the report for the new material that I put in. And we can see our unrestricted stock right now at 1,984. It also shows us our main crib with our storage bin location. And this is the stock overview report. The next report in the manual that we're going to talk about is the goods issue report. This report is especially created for GM, and it displays goods issues transaction performed by plant, storage location, valuation type, username, posting date, and movement type. So I'm going to navigate to this report. In the command field, I'm going to type ZRTP _GB _ issues and hit enter. This is going to bring up my goods issue report. Now, as I said, we can enter more criteria that we wish to. So for here, the minimum requirements that you do enter is at least the plant and the storage location. I can also go down, as you can see, and I can add the valuation type. I can also add a username, or I can restrict to the posting dates as well. Now, restricting by the dates, as I go here, we'll go 03, and I'm going to choose a smaller time frame because this will restrict how much data the system is looking at and what it has to go through to bring me back this report. So now, once I've entered the criteria that I wish to search for, I can go ahead and hit enter. Or if you remember, this is a report, so hitting enter, I'm not going to do anything. So I actually do have to hit execute. You will get in the habit of hitting enter most of the time, but enter only works for your transactions. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the execute. This may take a moment to run. Because I added extra criteria, this ran relatively quickly. Sometimes it will not run nearly that fast. It may take a minute or two. So this is showing us the movement types, the document numbers, what line item those materials were on for that material document, material common code, the description of the material. We can also see the plant, our storage location, the amount in local currency for the value of the quantity. We see our quantity, our cost centers. If we had an order or reservation, that would be there. But over here we can also see who created those material documents. So I can see the user IDs, and I can also see their full names that are listed in the training environment. In the production environment, you would see the actual people's names listed. And you also notice the dates of when they've posted. And finally, we have the header text. So we can also see whether or not who was shipping some of these goods that were being received. If you wish to change any of these columns or layouts, we do have an options under Choose Layout, which allows us to modify our layouts and create our own custom layouts. So if I select Change Layout, this allows me to add or subtract columns that I don't want to see. So if I didn't want to see the storage bin for these, I can take that off of my displayed columns and rerun the report, and that column has now been taken off. Now coming back, this is a good report to view any of the information that you need to see if you think there's an issue with material documents being received or being reversed out of the system if there is an error. And this is the end of the goods issue report. On a complete side note, do you want to say, for those of you that prefer to work in Excel, all of these reports are also exportable. So if I click the export icon here, I can export to a spreadsheet, so I can use any of Excel's functions to clean the data up to make it a little easier to find. The next report we're going to talk about is the list of purchase orders, or the purchase order history report. This is a custom transaction to GM that you can use to look up purchase orders by several criteria, including material document number, posting dates, and a few other. So to start this, I'm going to go ahead and put the ZRTP underscore GP underscore PO HIST, and I'm going to hit enter. This is going to open the first screen for the report. You can see it has some information populated here already. This is because of the fact that I had entered this material previously on the other report. I haven't signed out between running these different reports. So SAP is trying to be helpful in supplying the information it thinks I'm looking for. So for the purchase order, I'm going to enter my plant. So I'll enter my training plant. I'm going to leave my valuation type as new. I only want to look for new. But I'm going to change the range of materials that I'm looking for. So doing this, I'm actually asking the system to look for this material to this material and everything in between. With the multiple selector icon, I can select single values that I want to look at. I can select my ranges. As you see, I'm already doing a range. I can also exclude single values or exclude a range. So once I've done this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit the execute icon. This is going to run the report. Now, depending on how long this takes, this report can go very quickly or it can take a little while to be done. So I'm going to pause this video while it actually takes the time to process. Now that my report is actually processed, I can go ahead and look through it. So for this, I can see my plant, my purchase document numbers. So these are the purchase orders that were created for these materials, the item number, this is who is supplying the material, so our vendor. We also can see our material document number with the movement type. So this is telling us for 101s, these are the goods receipts. If I scroll over to the right, we can also see the amount in local currency based on the quantity, the valuation type, so we see these are all new items. I can see the material and the material description as well. And we can also see who actually was doing the receiving on these, their full name, and it'll also show us the packing slip information. So this is a good way if we have to hunt down some records, we can find out what information is connected in the system. This will also allow you to see whether or not a particular purchase order has actually received materials in against that. We can also see, if you notice, I have 101, 102, and a 122. The 101s are goods receipts, 102 is a reversal of a goods receipt, and a 122 is a return to vendor. So for this particular line, we had to return that item to the vendor because it could have been the incorrect or wrong amount of items, depending on what the problem was. And that's the end of the purchase order history. The next report we're going to talk about is called the Z-Made report. This is another custom report to GM. This report provides valuable information about a material from a master data and a transactional perspective. This is the most comprehensive report available. This is why this report can be used at various levels and roles of the organization, from crib attendants, receivers, planners, and controllers. So to start this off, I'm going to enter the ZRTP_GB_ZMade in the command field, and I'm going to hit enter. And this is going to bring up our main screen for this report. Now, the material type will always populate as ZIND. This is a default, and this is something that we don't want to change. Now, as I said, this report is a very comprehensive report, and we have to make a decision whether or not we wish to search by the material master record or by the transactional activity report. For this example, we're going to search by the material master record. So I'm going to enter my plant, US 31 for my training environment. I'm going to enter my storage location, and I'm going to enter a valuation type for this. The more criteria I enter, the more the report's going to filter. So now once I've selected the options that I want to search by, I can go ahead and I can either hit F8 or I can hit the execute. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit the F8 execute. This is another report that can take a little bit to run due to the fact that you're asking the system to go out and search for a great deal of information. The more criteria and parameters we give it to search by, the quicker the report can run. Now if we chose the transactional activity, this is going to show us the movements that the materials have done through the system, from being goods receipted at the dock to being provisioned out of the crib. It will also show us any movements within if we're doing a storage to storage location change. Now that the report has finished running, let's take a look at it. Now, as we said, this is a very comprehensive report, and the report that we just ran is a material master record. So this is going to give us all of the information based off the material master records for these materials. So we can see in the first column we have what's called the last inventory count. This is going to let us know when was the last time this inventory was counted. We can see our material number, or our common code, when the material was actually set up, our description. We can also see our manufacturing part number, the storage bin location, what our base unit of measure is. Next to that we have our planned delivery time. If I scroll over to the right, you can see we have lots more columns. This pulls in all of the information that is out of the material master record. There's a lot of this that you may not use. We can also see our maximum stock levels and including our block stock. You can also search for the legacy part numbers or some of the manufacturing information, and it will also let you know if these materials have been set up in an MRP area. Now on this report we can change our columns, filter out what we need, the same as Excel. So if I come up and I go to select layout, this allows me to view what other layouts have been created in the system globally by other people. So I can select these to see what they look like, and it will rearrange the report based on the layout that's selected. So I'm going to select the Parma Z-Made material list, and as you notice, this is already rearranged. So we have our material number next to our legacy part number next to our description, and all the other columns are laid out on what would be the most beneficial for the crib attendant to view. This report can also be exported to Excel, where you can work with it in different ways. And this is the Z-Made report. If we wanted to change it or look at other options, if we come to change layout, this allows us to see what columns are currently being excluded from this report that we may want to add in, or if there's columns that we want to remove, we can remove those as well. Once we've removed them or changed it, so I'm going to take out the GM Model 1 field, 2, 3, and we'll take out the 4 for now. And I'm going to hit transfer or edit. And this is going to change that report, so now those fields are gone. And this is the Z-Made report, which will give you a very good grasp of the materials that are in your crib location and the details that are set up for those in their master records. Now for section 8, we're going to start looking at useful tips and tricks. So the first thing we're going to look at is setting up your default values for the MeGo screen for first-time users. So I'm going to go to MeGo in the command field and hit enter. When I get here, I'm going to go to Settings, Default Values, and this is the screen that's going to pop up. Now here, this is where I want to make sure that I put in my storage location. So when you're a new user, this will be blank, so you'd put 0200. And for the plant, I'm going to put my plant code, which is US31. And I'm going to hit enter. And it's going to populate those fields with the names. Other information we can edit here is if I want to make sure that my goods issue always opens up for reservations at a 291, I can set that. The reason that that was set to a 292 was that was the last value I had entered when I had done a 292 the other day. So the system was remembering that as my default value for the next time I enter that. Once I've set up any of the changes that I wish to make or any of the default values, I simply have to hit adopt in the corner and it's going to lock in those values. Now on the MeGo screen, as a crib attendant, when you first look at the item overview, this seems not very user-friendly for the first, because you can see your material short description here, but you don't see your common code. So I'm going to show you real quick how we set up your common code to be the first column after the line column. So if I scroll all the way over through all of these columns to the right, I'm going to find one that says material. If I right click, oh, my apologies, left click, you can drag that over all the way next to the material short description. Now in order to save this as the layout will be, if you hit the little icon here in the corner that's blue, yellow, and white, this is the configuration icon. This is going to allow me to set up a variant for this item overview, so it'll be set that way every time I come back. So when I hit create here, you'll notice my current settings change to train admin and my standard are train ad. Once I hit save, every time I come back into MeGo, it will always have this column locked here for me, so I can simply just enter material into the material short description, and it's going to show me what the common code is in the material column. And that was two of the special tips and tricks for the MeGo screen. So I'm going to show you a couple new other tricks to use. And this is going to be how to look up a legacy part number, knowing the common code, how to look up a common code using a legacy part number, and also how to look up a manufacturing part number in the material master record. Since these can be done in all the same transaction, I'm going to show you at the same time. So we're going to go to the transaction MM03, so I'm going to type that in the command field and I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to work with this material. It's already populated for me because this was the last one I had entered in this session. So I'm going to hit my select views, and I want to make sure that I've selected the General Plant Storage Data 1 tab. So it's selected, and you can see it's blue, so that means it's one of my default settings. So anytime I come here, it will always be selected, and I can just add any other ones that I wish to view at the time. Once I've selected my views, I want to make sure I select my organization levels. So I'll hit organization levels here at the bottom. This is going to pop up my little organization levels. First time users, these will not be defaulted. But you can enter your plant code, storage location, and the valuation type that you're looking for, and you can hit default settings, which will save these to be your default. Once I've done that, I can go ahead and hit the green check mark, and this is going to open the material master record. So if I come to this little icon in the corner, I'm going to come down and I'm going to select the Plant Storage Data 1 tab. If I scroll down, you'll see a field called Legacy Part Number. This field will be populated with the legacy part number when you go live in the system. It makes it really, really nice, so you don't have to go hunting for it. Now, if we were doing the same process and we need to look up the manufacturing part number, the view that we would want to look at in the Material Master Record is the Purchasing tab. So if I come here to my nice little folder icon, it's going to give me a drop down of all the different tabs that we have. If I select Purchasing, this is going to take me to the Purchasing Information tab. If I scroll down, you're going to see here the manufacturing part number, and this field will have the manufacturing part number for this material. So that's how we look up the legacy number if we have the common code, and how we look up the manufacturing part number if we have the common code. Now, if we don't have the common code, so I'm going to exit out of here and say we're in the transaction MIGO and we don't have the common code, but we have the legacy part number, we need to be able to look up the common code with the legacy part number. So if I click in the material field on the material tab and I click the match box icon, this is going to pop up a search. Mine is currently defaulted to legacy part number by plant. Yours, when you first enter, may be on material number and material description. But if you click the little folder icon underneath the X, you can select all the different criteria you wish to search by. So I can search by legacy part number by plant, or I can search by manufacturing part number in case I have that. So I'm going to select legacy part number. And if I wish to look for a legacy part number, but I only know the last 4 numbers on that legacy part number, I can put a wild card, so Shift 8 dash whatever the numbers are that I know. So I'm going to put 23. This is going to go out and grab all of the materials that start with this. Well, in this case, this is going to go out and grab all of them that end with 1023. If I put the wild card at the end and had one at the beginning, it's going to grab everything that contains 1023. And if I only leave it at the end with the wild card, it's going to grab everything that starts with 1023. So once I've selected my numbers and I hit the start search, it's going to run out and it's going to search and say, what materials do we have that starts with the or ends with the legacy part number? So you can see I have 0181-1023 and I have 0466-1023. But in this situation, their common code is the same as their legacy for the one. For the first item though, you can see that their legacy part number and their common code in SAP are different. So occasionally you'll get both in the system, where they've kept the legacy is the same as the SAP material number, or they've changed it. So I'm going to select this first one. Once I click on that, it will populate this field and I hit enter, and it will populate the rest of the field for me to go transaction. And that's how I can look up a common code using just a legacy part number. Now the final tip and trick I'm going to show you is how to display purchase order. That transaction to display a purchase order is ME23N. Once I input that in the command field, I'm going to hit enter. It will populate the transaction with the last purchase order that you had entered. If you need to change the purchase order or define the other purchase order, if you click the orange and white other purchase order button, it's going to give you a pop-up that allows you to select your purchase order. As you can see, I have a lot of purchase orders in here. I'm just going to select one and hit enter to populate the screen. Oh, this purchase order wasn't available. So I can search by purchase orders by my vendors. If I don't know my purchase order number, I can also search by material, by network, and other criteria. So I'm going to search by a material, and I'm going to look for my purchase order for this material item. So it's come back and it's given me two different purchase orders. So I'm going to select the bottom one to open, and I'm going to hit other documents. And this is populated the ME23N with that open purchase order information. So this allows me to find the purchase order so I can view any of the information depending on why I need it. I could just be checking on whether or not there is an open purchase order actually out for these materials, or if we've actually received anything against this purchase order. This allows me to look this way as well. So you can see mine is on purchase order history, and it's showing me that we have done quite a few receipts against this purchase order. But you notice we also have reversals on what we've received, so the only quantity we've actually received so far has been 10. But this is just a training environment, so occasionally things will look a little strange. If you need to make sure that you can receive this purchase order in as a goods receipt, if you click on the invoice tab, there's a couple checkboxes over here. In order to be able to goods receipt this item, you need to make sure that the GR, goods receipt based box here, is checked. If that's not checked, this is an invoice only purchase order, so you're going to have to contact the requester who ordered this to let them know their materials are here, because we won't be able to do a goods receipt in this system for them. And that is how you can look up a purchase order. The final lesson for today is lesson 9, follow up, and we're going to cover the training portal information. I'm going to walk you through our end user training portal and show you what resources we have available. The first step for the training portal is finding the training portal URL. As you can see on this slide, we have the training portal URL listed on the very top with a screenshot below. In the next video, you're going to see as I walk through the actual site and show you the different sections that we have on there. So now we're at our Global Business Service RTP training portal. This is the site where you can contact us in case you need help, if you have questions, or if you're new to SAP. This also gives us a great deal of options to sign up for classes, to find our manuals. We have a frequently asked questions section. You can also see here on the right, we have a what's new, so you'll see what updates have gone on to the system and what we're trying to let people know about. There's also a class evaluation, so you can evaluate the classes at the end of them, and curriculum as well. So if I come up, the page that interests most everyone is knowing where to find your manuals. So if you see our guy right here in green, he has an arrow pointing down for quick access. If I click on the access, this allows me to open up our SharePoint with the folders. For crib attendance, if I come down to number 6 and click, it's going to open up and it's going to give me the crib attendant manual right here. And you can see what version it is, the description, and when it was last updated. Going below, you can see other manuals and options that we have. We do have some help cards, quick reference guides on here if you need to, so feel free to go through and look. But the newest and updated information will always be in your user manuals. So if I go back over to our home screen and scroll up, when you're new, feel free to hit this new to SAP, and this is going to open up a little PowerPoint to guide you through some of the steps. And you can see the information on being new. How you'd like to create a shopping cart, how you get access, and what are help desk options. Feel free to come on here and go through all of this. If you have questions, concerns, or comments, please come back and email us at esaptraining@gm.com, and we'll be happy to get back to you and help you with any of your problems or concerns you have. And this is a quick run through of our training portal, but please take a chance to go and dive more into it. Thank you, and I hope you've learned a great deal from this course.